Hey there, welcome back to Comics and Cosmetics. I'm Danny Sanssouci, and this week we are covering the most prolific and longest running independent comic of all time, Spawn. Hey kids, welcome back to my channel. Another episode of Comics and Cosmetics, my weirdo version of grown-up story time, where I, a licensed cosmetologist and registered super nerd, talk to you about a variety of different nerdy topics while doing my makeup at the same time. Yeah, I have 20 subscribers. That's pretty awesome, right? I don't know how either, but I'm here. As I just mentioned a few minutes ago from the future, TARDIS, not just for decoration. This week, we are talking about Spawn. And I have one thing to say about that. Fuck you, JR. Fuck you right in your hole. Thank you for demanding me to do one of the most complex and extensive characters of all comic book history, where I'm absolutely positively thrilled that I got my first request, nay command, on a topic for an episode. You can imagine my absolute utter shock and surprise when I started digging into the material. Not only is Spawn the most wildly popular independent comic character of all time, it is also the longest running, uninterrupted, without being renumbered comic, like, ever. So, Spawn came out in May of 1992, so we're looking at just shy of 30 years of straight storytelling. Yeah, that's a lot. So today, I'm going to try and break it down into segments. And instead of telling you the entire story, which, let's face it, I'm long-winded as it is, we'd be here all night. Instead of breaking it down through one straight story of his entire history, I'm going to give you a very brief synopsis of his origin, and we're going to stick with one storyline that I feel pretty much encompasses all that you need to know about Spawn himself. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. So it's impossible to talk about Spawn without mentioning his very, very awesome creator, Todd McFarlane. Now, notice the spelling. It's McFarlane. There's no D at the end. So no, he is not related to Seth MacFarlane, whose name ends in a D. Todd McFarlane, Seth MacFarlane. Two totally different people, not related, not even in the slightest. In fact, Todd McFarlane is Canadian, eh? So, Todd McFarlane actually created Spawn when he was 16 years old. 16. Created this fully fleshed out, complex, crazy anti-hero at 16. And not only did he just create him, he was obsessed with this character. He spent hours constantly trying to perfect the design. Now, he got his start, really, he got his notoriety and fame as a comic book writer and artist. He's a very good artist, while working on Spider-Man. I mean, he got stupid famous. He's also worked on Batman. He's non-comic denominational, like myself. So he worked on Batman, and he gained a lot of his superstardom working on Spider-Man. And he completely shook the comic world when he told Marvel to F off. And he left and formed his own comic publisher, Image Comics. In the first issue of Spawn, despite not getting all the pomp and circumstance and crazy level of advertising that, other comic publishers do for their comics like Marvel and DC, Spawn still sold 1.7 million copies in its first release. Like, that's insane. And as I said before, Spawn, and I checked. I did hours of research. So if I look tired, it's JR's fault. All right, he wanted this. You asked for this, JR. You got this. So if I look tired, it's from these hours and hours of research. And I checked. There's only a handful of comics that have ran without being renumbered at all. And on that list is like G.I. Joe, The Simpsons, these are comics that are based off of Simpsons isn't a children's cartoon, but these are comics that are based off of TV shows and cartoons. So to me, that doesn't really count. But the only one on that list that I would consider like an actual comic book superhero, the only mainstream recognizable character on that list that has just gone straight through without resets or renumbers is Spawn. I mean, that is seriously impressive that you can go 30 years without getting so convoluted that you've got to reset the whole thing. I'm looking at you, DC. I'm looking at you. What I'm saying is, it was a massive, massive big deal. And this is right around the time where we finally got the creators' Bill of Rights. Up until then, comic publishers like Marvel, DC, etc., they treated their comic book creators, their character creators, their artists, like toilet paper, basically. We ran out, get another roll. They said they were subcontractors. They paid them for this service. Therefore, whatever they created under their banner was theirs to own and do whatever they want with it. After many years of several creators suing the industry, like Jack Kirby and the creator of Howard the Duck, his name is escaping me right now. That was a really big deal. I mean, they sued for years, and finally in 1987, 88, they won, and we get the the creator Bill of Rights. And on the coattails of this, Marvel ticked off McFarlane too, and he left and he formed Image Comics. So it's pretty impressive that amidst all this crazy turmoil in the industry that he just comes out swinging, and I mean really hasn't stopped since. That comic was only in existence about 5 years when it got its very first feature-length film, big budget feature-length film starring Martin Sheen. It had Martin Sheen. And listen, I'm certain that I'm not the only one out there who strongly believes John Leguizamo should have won an Oscar for his portrayal as the Violator in that. Okay? It's been about 25 years, and I still can't get the image of John Leguizamo dressed as a short, fat, scary hell clown dressed as a cheerleader out of my head. I can't. But this comic had only been in existence for 5 years, and it got its first feature-length film. That is saying something. That is telling you how much of a juggernaut this series was. Spawn wasn't always the handsome devil you see in that black and white costume with the red cape. Oh no. He was born Albert Francis Simmons in Detroit, Michigan, to Esther and Bernard. He was the middle child of 3 brothers. He was highly intelligent, very athletic, very strong. So after high school, he joined the United States Marine Corps, where he reached the rank of lieutenant colonel. From there, he joined the Secret Service, where he actually saved the president's life. Not bad, not bad. He then transferred to the CIA, where he met his mentor, Jason Wynn, the director, who then offered him a job. He recruited him to join this special top secret covert ops division known as the U.S. Security Group Elite Task Force. Sounds fancy. Now, they were very close. They were best buds. He was his mentor. But he trains him to be an assassin. And after a while, Al starts picking up what he's throwing down behind closed doors. He starts realizing that, at first it didn't bother him. He's killing innocent people. Like, bang. Nah, I still sleep at night. I'm painting a picture. So it starts bothering him after a while. He's like, this Wynn dude, he is up to something, and I don't think I much care for it. So they start butting heads, and they get in this big fight, and Al tells Jason that he's going to resign, and then he's going to tell. He's going to tell on him. He's going to tell everybody what he's doing. He's going to take him down. Well, I don't know about you, but if you know that your boss is an unconscionable, murderous bastard, why would you tell him what you're going to do? Why would you tell on yourself like that? Clearly, it's a bad idea to tell him what you're going to do. He's a murderer. He's a bad person. So, obviously, Wynn doesn't take that. And he orders Bruce Chapel Stinson to kill him. And he does. Al burns to death. And he immediately goes in hell. Al meets... It's not the same as Mephisto, is it? Just doesn't have the same effect. But anyway, he meets Malboja, who says he's the devil. He's the ruler of hell. So in hell, Malboja offers him a deal. He says, look, bro. Listen, Linda, listen. What can I do for you? Like, I want you to be one of my hellspawn. I want you to do my bidding. What can I give you that will make you want to do that? And Al, all he can think about is his wife, Wanda, back on Earth. And he tells him that. He's like, I just want Wanda. I want to be able to see Wanda again. So Malboja's like, bet, deal, bro. And he agrees. After he agrees, he sends Al back to Earth with a few changes. Al doesn't really remember much. He remembers the name Wanda. He remembers her. He remembers that she's a beautiful woman and that he loves her, but he doesn't remember much else other than that. His skin, he's burnt beyond recognition. And he has this demonic guardian who calls himself the Violator. He's an incredibly powerful demon. He is. But he has taken or been given the form of this 4 foot tall Danny DeVito looking psycho clown. Please, God, please tell me you have seen the Spawn feature film from 1997 where John Leguizamo plays this guy, because it's just priceless. It's fantastic. He does an amazing job. You should watch it. And the movie really sticks to canon pretty well for the most part. So Al's back on Earth looking like a crispy critter and not really remembering a whole lot, but he also starts discovering he's pretty much got superpowers. He has his new body, which is made of necroplasm. I think the Violator calls him the heir of It's like this green slime stuff. But it's called necroplasm. And he also has a suit, which we will cover in a memento. So he's got this suit, he's got all these superpowers, and he can't really control it very well yet. So Al's back on Earth, trying to figure out what he's doing there, what happened to him. And he makes friends with the homeless in a place called Rat City. It's a collection of alleys in New York where the homeless congregate. And he likes it there. Well, he's comfortable there because they don't judge him. They don't judge him because they're outcasts too. And they all kind of stick together. Well, while he's there, along with, the Violator, who he's our comic relief, and I say that in air quotes because he's super sadistic. He is messed up, bro. Like, seriously messed up. This is the part of the show where take a good look at my shirt because this is the last that you'll see it this clean. Here shortly, it will be covered in makeup. You're welcome. So along with the Violator, who dubs him Spawn, he's now Spawn. He's no longer Al Simmons. He meets another of Malbosia's Hellspawn who's no longer exactly doing his bidding. Cagliostro. Not Cagliostro from Doctor Strange, but Cagliostro. And he helps him, figure out who he is, where he's been, and how to use his powers. Slowly, Spawn starts getting some memories back. And by using, the CIA database and, observation, he figures out that, Malbosia sent him back, but he sent him back 5 years later. He's been dead for 5 years. And his wife is now married to his best friend, Terry Fitzgerald. I'm going to do my very best when talking about Terry because all I could think about is that video that we see every 4th of July. That is my favorite video. Put in reverse, Terry. What you doing, Terry? It's just a classic. And it's so hard not to think about it every time I see Terry. So she married his best friend, his BFF, Terry. And she's got a little girl who's, 5 years old. So, Al's daughter. She's married to Terry and seems really happy. And, obviously this devastates Al or Spawn, who's like, I said I wanted to see her again. I should have been more specific with my deal with the devil. So you've got the basics. He's come back from hell. He's supposed to do the bidding of Malbosia. His wife is now married to his best friend, Terry, and there's a little girl named Cyan. He eventually does defeat and kill Malbosia, and he's offered the seat of hell, to rule hell. And he's like, no, thank you, but no. That does not sound like something I'd be interested in, but no. A little bit about his suit, the big source of his power. His suit is actually a sentient and constantly evolving being called Letha, daughter of the 7th house of K, or K7 Letha for short. It's a cute nickname. Hey there, K7 Letha. How you doing, girl? So once Once Al became a hellspawn with a necroplasm body, hellborn parasites like K7 Letha bond for life with their host's nervous system. And she sustains her power by feeding off of his necroplasm and what's left of his spinal fluid and other, neural chemicals. Through their telepathic connection, she's able to interface with all of his subconscious, all his conscious and subconscious thought, and including his soul. And this is all due to their supernatural neural symbiosis. And she can and does over time evolve into a higher parasitic life form. The cape of K7 Letha does allow him to glide on air, so it provides him a form of flight. I wonder if that gas station sushi can give me powers too. He can also shapeshift, manifest blades, claws, spikes, knives, and it also provides him a form of camouflage. It also gives him immense strength and durability, and the chains and spikes that she creates are virtually indestructible and can lift over 100 tons. Not bad. I don't normally cheat like this, but this is a long video. There's a lot to talk about, and I want to be able to concentrate on what I'm saying, so I'm cheating. Try to look at me with a straight face. I can't look at you with a straight face, and that's without tape on my face. Oh my God, it's happening. I'm crazy with tape on my face. The list of Spawn's powers are so extensive, it would take an entire episode to talk about them. And I'm not exaggerating. Just think of something and he can do it. From having super strength, flight, invisibility, and psychic connections, and being able to control rats and bats and wolves and bears. Oh my. He can warp reality, and he has powers over life and death and creation at one point. Nigh omnipotence. It's insane. The list of things that Spawn can do. I mean, you'd have a hard time picking any other comic character anywhere that could match him. Like, it's almost ridiculous to have a character with think Franklin Richards. He's basically Franklin Richards, but from hell. Now, I mentioned some of the people in his life. Wanda, for all intents and purposes, his widow. His best friend, Terry. His daughter, Cyan. The Violator, his guardian demon. You've got Malboja, who made the deal with him and made him a hellspawn. Cogliostro, who was kind of a mentor in all the hellspawnness. And then you've got Sam and Twitch. Sam and Twitch were insanely popular characters that actually got their own spinoff, and they're detectives. So when Spawn needs help figuring something out, he goes to Sam and Twitch. They're basically his minions. And we can't forget Jason Wynn. Jason Wynn, who was his former mentor and boss at the CIA and that special covert ops group, he actually became anti-Spawn the Redeemer, and that was a whole thing. We'll have to get into that another time because there's just so much to cover. Like I said, Spawn has so much history, it's impossible to go through it in one episode. So the storyline I picked that I felt really encapsulates everything you need to know about the character, his personality, and what all he can do. And that is spawn Armageddon. This is a really, really, really crazy, crazy storyline. And before we go any further, I should probably issue a disclaimer.
Warning. The following segment contains content depicting gratuitous violence, domestic violence, and suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
So if your children are out of the room now, we'll talk about Spawn issues number 150 through 164 because definitely not appropriate for children in the slightest, and it most certainly not for the sensitive, easily triggered. If you are easily triggered, please stop. And it's going to be difficult for me to get through. I got emotions, okay? I felt emotions, especially when I got to the end, and you'll see why. Leading up to this, Spawn had defeated Malbosia. Mammon took over as a ruler of hell because Spawn didn't want it. And we find out that Cagliostro is actually Cain from the Bible, that killed his brother Abel. Now, Spawn took a little trip to the green world, and the green world, the keeper of the green world, had gifted him with basically new abilities. So K7 Letha had evolved again. Well, yeah, again, she evolved again. And it gave her, it was a new, more powerful version of herself. And now he had, whether he just discovered it or because of this new evolution, it brought him to the knowledge that he had 6,000 people living inside him. He had 6,000 people in him. And that's a rough night, man. Or a good one. I don't know. I don't know your life. So he had all these souls bonded to his necroplasm body. And after he goes through all of this, he comes back from the mystical green world realm. He comes back to Earth. And when he comes back to Earth, right away he knows that something is not right. Things are just not okay. The dead are starting to rise. And we see that all over, people are praying to God for help, for deliverance. And God's not answering. He is straight up not answering. And he's not answering because he's not there. God is not on the throne of heaven, and the devil is nowhere to be found. Like the actual devil, Satan. He's real, and he's not there. And nobody knows where they've gotten off to. They just know that they're not where they're supposed to. And now things are going horribly awry all over the world. From here, the book takes us to heaven. And, there's this huge war. I mean, if you've picked up a Bible, you're aware. But there's this war between heaven and hell. And it's been going on for eons. Well, heaven's forces, the heavenly host, are quite depleted. It's not looking good for heaven because they're running out of heavenly hosts to fight the armies of hell called the Forgotten. So the most bloodthirsty agent of heaven is brought back in. And her name is Zara, Queen of the Seraphine. And she had been God's favorite badass. If he needed something done, he sent her. She was basically his wrath. And she was so bloodthirsty and vicious that her rage would manifest as this giant beast. It would come out of her in the form of this giant beast and just wreak destruction everywhere. So she shows up, and at first, everyone in heaven starts kind of panicking, like, oh my God, that crazy one's back. Like, she's insane. She is uncontrollable. She's absolutely crazy. What do we do with her? But then they're like, wait a minute. She is so tough and so bloodthirsty that we won't have to worry about replenishing our ranks at all. We've got Zara. She'll just wipe him out. So, cool. She's back. Yay. So, Zara is like, hey, what's up? Our ranks are super depleted, and we're really, really, really going to need some help. So, Zara's like, I have an idea to replenish our ranks. Let's initiate the rapture. And all the other angels and heavenly hosts are like, cool. Yeah, only God can do that. And he kind of took the password with him. So how are we going to do that? At that point in the book, we leave Zara and we go back to Spawn, who's being visited by the Man of Miracles. And the Man of Miracles is like, yeah, so it is Armageddon, it is the end times, and it is straight up Armageddon. Like, everything's about to be destroyed. And I do mean everything. So Spawn asks the Man of Miracles, this super all-powerful guy who seems to know everything that's going on, like the same question we all would ask. Okay, so it's the end times, it's the apocalypse, it's Armageddon. How do I stop it? And the Man of Miracles is like super vague. The Man of Miracles starts giving him all these really ambiguous, vague answers. And Spawn's like, what? He starts talking about the souls that live inside him, you know, his body roomies. And he tells him that, hey, dude, just make sure you listen to all the roommates living inside you. And Spawn's like, cool. I mean, do you have anything more specific that can help? The world's ending. He's like, just listen to yourself. Listen to the 6,000 people living inside you. The next thing we know, Spawn is basically taking his advice immediately. And he's kind of like inside himself. And he's meeting with a couple of the souls that are bonded to him. And they're Hindi. So the next thing you know, we know, he's being visited by Kali, the Hindu goddess of death. Right away, they don't like each other. And Kali's like, what do you mean you're trying to stop the apocalypse? Isn't that kind of the thing you're supposed to be helping along? Like, aren't you supposed to be working for hell and helping them win Armageddon? And he's like, no, I'm a rebel, Dottie. I'm a rebel. From here, we leave Spawn and we go back to Wanda and Terry's house. Now, remember I said that Spawn had been gone like 5 or so years? Well, in that span of time, like right after he died, she gave birth to Cyan, their child. But then later, she and Terry had a set of twins, Jake and Katie. When Jake and Katie were born, it wasn't very long until Wanda and Terry start having problems with these kids. Like most parents who have multiple children, you know, I've had a problem child, but this was a little bit more than having a problem child. They were very destructive and started showing very sadistic and psychotic tendencies. And these kids are like 3. Some of the things that they would do involve, you know, general destruction and mayhem, hurting people, animals, leaving messages on the fridge with fridge magnets saying, kill mommy. That's sweet. So this particular day, Wanda comes home and relieves the babysitter. Like, oh, hi, I'm home. Like, oh, good. I was just watching your little psychos. Almost immediately, mommy's home. Yay. Katie picks up a baseball bat and caves in Jake's skull with it. Like, that's not normal. Like, caves it in. At some point, he stabs her in the head with scissors, and they're just sitting in there, and she's like, hey, stop it. Now, understandably, Wanda is freaking out. Who wouldn't? But Jake immediately gets up, and his head starts healing. Wanda had already dialed 911 while her son was unconscious because, a good chunk of his head was missing. So the responsible thing for a parent to do is call 911. But he's gotten up and he's healing. Now, by the time the responders get there, his head wound is virtually completely healed. There's just a scratch. Just a scratch. He's fine. Well, Wanda tries to explain to Tara, that, what happened. And she's melting down. Because her babies just tried to kill each other. It's insane and surreal, to say the least. So she's trying to explain to Terry that something is very, very wrong with our children. I don't think they're our children. There's just, please, go look. There's something wrong with them. Well, that night, these two adorable little psycho toddlers decide, hey, I've got a fun idea. Let's kill our family. So they tie up Wanda, Terry, and Cyan and basically start torturing them. Told you, this is... And this isn't the worst part of the story. It gets so much darker. So from there, the book takes us back to Zara, the queen of the Seraphim, who has, as expected, obliterated the army of the forgotten. So she's like, I've taken care of the army of the forgotten. You're welcome, okay? But peace, guys. I gotta go find God, okay? Because I need the password so we can start the rapture. So off she goes. And then we're back with, we see Kali, the Hindu goddess of death. She's by herself this time. And all of a sudden, she turns into the man of miracles, and she's talking to herself. I mean, I talk to myself all the time. I'm talking to myself now. He's talking to himself about everything, and he starts to prophesize. He prophesies that everything will be saved by a child. The child will save us all. Save them all. And the way he's talking about it, it is demonstrated to us, the readers, that the child is Cyan, Wanda and Al's daughter. So then we show up with Spawn, who's with Sam and Twitch. And, they've figured out why 6,000 people are bonded to him. And it's because they all died the same hour he did. Well, at least that's what they're working with. These people all died at the same time he did. And so far they've compiled a list of 2,000 of them. And he's like, well, I guess that's why Malboja couldn't control me, because he thought he was just trying to control me, and it was 6,000 people, so joke's on him. Yeah. Wish he was alive for me to, funny story, bro. Well, then it flips right back to Wanda and the Churrin, and they are torturing these people, and they've decided, it's time to kill him. We're going to kill him. But it just so happens that our man Spawn decides to run tell that, everything he found out about the apocalypse and himself, because, I mean, you find out that the end is coming, something bad's happening. What do? You run to the people you care about. So he happens to show up like right when Cyan is pretty much on the brink of death. Like they're about to kill her. So he shows up and he stops the kids and tries to kill them. Which, I mean, we could be judgy all we want about that, but I mean, what would you do? These kids are nuts. One's got a gun and she's licking the barrel, talking about how good it tastes. Tastes like cold blood. And he realizes he can't kill these kids. They won't die. Like, they will not die. They cannot die. They are not only psychotic and violent, but they're just unkillable as well. We start hearing this rumbling, and then here comes Zara crashing through. Like, all of a sudden she's there. And she bows down, and prostrates herself to Jake. And she tells him, "I am your loyal servant." Well, that's exactly what was needed to jog Katie and Jake's memories. And Jake looks up and he says, "My name is not Jake." Guess who he is? Guess. He's God. I'll relieve your suspense. Jake is God. So if Jake is the Lord, then Katie is, that's right, Katie's Satan. And like the first thing she says is, "Who put me in a little girl's body? Who did it? Which one of you did it? So Jake, you would think, oh, he's God. He'll remember who he is. And he'll be a good boy. He'll be all sweet and nice. He'll be like, oh, forgive me, mother, for I did not know. Let me fix this for you." No, he is arrogant. He's violent. He is straight up Old Testament fire and brimstone, great fury and furious anger. He is just a jerk. He's a turd. And he tells everyone, bow down. I'm the one who made you. I made you out of crusty mud. So, he looks over at Zara and points to Spawn, who's apparently just causing problems again, and he tells Zara to kill him. Well, our boy Spawn is not having none of that, and he's like, "Bring it, bitch." So they run for each other. And right as their weapons clash, like right as they clash, they get yanked apart by some unknown force. And this immediately ticks off Jake. G-O-D, Jake. And they're like, "Who's doing this? Who did this to us? And who's doing this?" And this space-looking person shows up, and they're like, "Your mom, that's who." Boom. "You looking for this?" Sorry. So she's like, "I'm your mother. I created you." And like seals God and Satan's mouths shut. Like, shut up. Nobody wants to listen to you right now. This is the mother of all creation. Now, she's not really a she. She transcends all gender, but everyone calls her mother. Because she's the mother of creation. She created it. She birthed it. She then tells Spawn that they've met many times before. She was Kali. She was the keeper of the green world. And the man of miracles. Dun, dun, dun! She's the creator of the universe and all the gods in it. Like, so every planet and all the gods that rule over that planet. She created them all. And she also informs us that God and Satan are her most disappointing creations because they're so destructive and they're always fighting. But at one point, millennia ago, God totally surprised her by creating mankind. And she was like, okay, this is good. Creation is good. Let's see what he does. So she's like, oh, he did something good. He made people. Creation is nice. What a good boy he is. But he basically made them to be his lapdogs, like his slaves. Like, whoops. So Satan inadvertently gives them free will by tricking them to eat the apples of knowledge, which totally ticks God off because then he's like, oh no, then they're going to figure out about the tree of life, eat the fruit from the tree of life and become immortal and be like me, and then they don't need me anymore and they'll just dethrone me. So that's one of the things that started this epic battle between God and Satan. They started using humans as tools for their bickering, and it just really ticked the mother of all creation off. So she puts them in a timeout, hoping that, they'll get their crap together. And she goes down to earth as Jesus, trying to teach people, her ways, peace and love and living for each other and yada, yada, yada. Well, despite her efforts, it was too late. Humanity was already down this path of evil because it's not that Satan made them evil, it's that he gave them the knowledge and they chose evil. People started using religion as a weapon. And she's like, this is not cool. Look at the mess my kids have made. They have made such a huge mess. So she puts them in the twins, the Fitzgerald twins, to teach them how to respect and appreciate humanity. She thinks, if I make them human, maybe they will appreciate what it's like to be human. But it didn't work. Even not knowing who they were so overpowered and everything that they were fighting each other anyway and just super psychotic and destructive. And this caused problems all over the world. This is what kicks off Armageddon. So when Al Simmons died, she saw this opportunity to create her own soldier to try and, maybe make some lemonade out of these lemons. So Mother tells Spawn that he has to prove himself for humanity, that humanity has to prove itself worth saving at this point. Are they so far gone from the meddling of God and Satan, or can they be saved? Spawn has to go through this test battling the disciple, and she will make him equal to God and Satan. But she can't just give it to him. He has to earn it. He asked Mother, hey, if you're the mother of all creation, why don't you just make them better? Make God and Satan behave. Make them better and fix everything for everyone. And she's like, listen, there are laws. I made these laws. I made them. They're universal laws. And I cannot break them because what's the point in having laws? How are you going to get anyone else to follow these rules if you don't follow the rules? And she's kind of got a point. So she does wave a hand and send God back to heaven and Satan back to hell. And God starts flipping out on the heavenly host. He's like, you didn't do your job, okay? Hell's armies came and decimated. Our numbers are almost non-existent. Like, what the hell were you doing while I was gone? Were you watching the TV? I asked you to do one thing and you didn't do it. So this is what's happening. Here's the password. Press play on the rapture. So he starts rapturing up all of the Christians. And here they think they are flying up to their reward to live in peace and harmony. Oh, no. As demonstrated by Granny Blake, Wanda's grandma, that is not what happened at all. That's not what happened. She gets up there and God's like, oh, here. Because she's blind when she was alive. And he's like, oh, here, let me reinstall vision on you. And she looks around and realizes that, you know, here it's not the peace and harmony and stuff. There's all these people getting fitted with armor and turned into warriors. They're going to fight. The Lord's putting you to work. So here we are back at the Fitzgerald home. While Mother looks on, Terry starts flipping out on Spawn. And this is just all too much for Wanda. I mean, think of everything she's been through in the last few years. Like, it's a lot, okay? And at this point, she can't even handle it. She cannot handle it. Like, her kids aren't her kids. They're God and Satan. And they're getting ready to destroy all of existence. So she, while no one's looking, grabs a pistol, goes upstairs, points it to her face and pulls the trigger. Well, right at the moment that that bullet comes right there to her face, Mother steps in and freezes time and allows Spawn to pull the bullet. Well, he starts telling Mother, he's like, you need to make this right. Fix this. She had nothing to do with this. Look what you've done to this poor woman. So Mother's like, okay, I can handle that. So she erases Wanda and Terry's memory. So they'll never know that, you know, they had two little psycho kids that were actually God and the devil. Well, Mother tells Spawn, look, I didn't really erase Cyan's memory because you're going to need her. You're going to need Cyan. You need to do exactly what she says when she says it. She is going to save you. But you two really, you're going to have to bond. You're going to have to be honest with her and show her who you really are. It'll be okay. She can take it. Just have faith. So he goes to Cyan and he's like, look, I got to show you who I really am. And who I really am is a monster. And he appears to her as bugs. And she's like, no, you're not a monster. You're not a monster. You're Al. And once she is able to accept him for who and what he really is, they're able to truly bond and connect. So all these people are being raptured up to heaven. And it is now time for Spawn to face his trial. He has to fight the disciple. So he fights him and it's like stupid easy. He's like, it should not be this easy. And she's like, you're right. Well, you notice that there's a Roman numeral 12 on the first disciple's forehead. Well, when the next one pops up, he's got a number 11 and he tells him, okay, so the other one was James the Lesser. I'm Simon Peter. Hi, I will be kicking your ass today. And they fight. And down the line, like he has to fight all these disciples, but until he gets to, you know, the big boss. It's like a video game. And that's when he gets to Judas Iscariot, and it's like ridiculously hard to fight this guy. Like he's super, super swole. Like he fought him before and that fight ended so quickly. Like Judas totally demolished Spawn, like their first battle, super, super fast. Well, this time Spawn has access to, you know, the power and knowledge and abilities of all those 6,000 souls that are bonded to him. So it makes him stronger and he's able to, you know, hold his weight, and he's getting ready to kill Judas. And he's like, oh yes, here we go. I'm about to win. I'm about to pass this trial. It's so great. I'm going to save everyone and everything. And then Cyan cries out, don't kill him. Stop. You can't kill him. And Spawn's like, yes, I can. Watch me. And she's like, no, let him kill you. He's like, what is this kid talking about? I'm supposed to prove my worthiness to the mother of creation so I can save everyone and everything. Whatever. So Judas impales Spawn and kills him. So Armageddon's beginning. Floods, earthquakes, you name it. It's happening, folks. It's happening. Well, not killing Judas was apparently what Mother meant by passing her trial. She resurrects him immediately and it brings him fruit from the tree of life. And she's like, here you go, baby. Eat this. Mommy love you. Imbues him with the powers of creation. He is now equal to God and Satan. He also has these big old angel wings. He's now divine Spawn. And she's also released all those 6,000 souls that were bonded to them and let them, go. So Cyan and Wanda and Terry are all in this protective shield and monsters are beating on it. Like it's this crazy, crazy, crazy scene. Mother explains Judas had, why Judas was important. He had to turn Jesus in. He had to die like that or his life wouldn't have mattered. And it was the same for Spawn. The 4 horsemen rise like it is going down on earth. Pestilence, war, death, famine, it's going down. The world is being destroyed. And all of heaven and hell's forces start marching towards the specific island for the final battle. Spawn meets Zara there and just completely obliterates her rage monster like that. And then he looks at her, he's like, you're next, and impales her and chops off her head. Like, super quick. Well, as he takes out, Heaven's army, he sees Granny Blake there and he feels really bad. He's like, I know heaven wasn't what you expected, but surely there is something out there waiting for you. And he lets her go, lets her rest. He then goes to hell's forces and he's like, go home, opens up a portal, sucks them all in. Like, bye. Like, he's gotten so super powered that everyone's in total disbelief. So then he shows up on God's doorstep and God's like, okay, you're doing a pop-in? Don't you have a phone? You could shoot a text, something. Maybe I didn't have pants on. So for a hot second, God and Satan team up and they try to destroy Spawn. And at that moment, Spawn is so mad, he just says, let it be done, and releases what we believe is the totality of his power, just blasts everything and cleanses the entire earth. He completely just obliterates humanity. There's nothing left on the earth but him, God, and Satan. He then sits and he weeps for what he's done, that he just destroyed humanity. And then God and Satan look over and they're like, wait, he's not crying. He's laughing. He mocks God and Satan because he's like, look, I did what you've been wanting to do all this time and you couldn't do it. It was me. Ha. And they're like, well, who do you think you are? And Mother shows up. She's like, he is what I made him to be. And God looks at her and he seriously says, you bitch. She seriously says, I do what I want. And then Spawn's like, you know what? They look too much like Wanda. I can't take it. Make them look like their true selves. And so they turn into what God and Satan look like. At this moment, after they've been turned into their true selves, they both simultaneously blast Spawn and kill him. And their mother of all creation's like, are you happy now? You have destroyed the last of humanity. He was it. He was all there was. Look at what you've done. Look what all your fighting and bickering has done. You've destroyed everything. And they actually have a moment where they look at each other and they're like, yeah, look what this has come to. This is crazy. And then God looks at Satan. He's like, it's all your fault. If you hadn't given that stupid apple. And so they start fighting again, over and over and over again. And so the mother of creation, she saves Spawn and she's like, look, do you see them? They are equally matched in eternal. This will go on forever unless somebody does something. Like, this will never, ever end unless we find a way to put a stop to it. She kind of lets Spawn know that I gave you all of my power. I gave you the power of creation. So make it better. So he kind of leaves God and Satan on this destroyed earth in like a little pocket dimension, I guess, and he recreates Earth. He essentially becomes the new God. He brings everyone back. He recreates it, but he leaves everyone, except for Wanda and Terry, he leaves everyone with the memories of that battle from heaven and hell, because this gives them knowledge that there is something out there greater than themselves. It helps unite humanity in a way that's never been done before, because they know for a fact there really is an afterlife. There really is something out there. She's like, what can I do for you? You know, you've saved, you recreated Earth. What do you want? And he says, you know, I only came back to Earth from hell to be with Wanda and, you know, subsequently my child I didn't know I had. So that's what I want. I want to be a man again, and I want to be with Wanda. Yeah, it's going to suck for Terry. He's a good guy. He is. But she's my wife, and I love her, and I miss her, and we're soulmates. So he'll understand. And so he becomes himself again, Al Simmons, and he starts heading for the house. And the mother's like, wait. Hold on. I need to tell you something. He's like, no. Seriously, I need to tell you something. You have to stop. You don't want to. Why are you doing this? After everything I've been through, just let me go. And she's like, yanks him out of his body. Astral form. And she's like, okay. He's like, why does this keep happening? So he goes into the house as his spirit self. You know, no one can see or hear him. And he kind of spies on Wanda and Terry, and they're having this fight. Like, she's trying to get busy. She wants to touch some butts. And Terry's not feeling it right now. He's feeling very emasculated, like he has ever since they realized it was Al that came back, that her ex is back. Like, what would you do if, you know, you're married to this wonderful woman and she has an ex and it turns out he's God and he comes back? Like, it emasculates him. So they haven't been doing it like they used to. They haven't been physical like they used to be. And it turns out he'd been going through her stuff, and he found out that she had this keepsake box of Al's things and little love notes and stuff, that she'd been going through it, you know, every day, and like, oh, looking at it. He's like, oh, you know, look at this. And she's like, oh, great, you've been spying. What are you gonna do? You gonna hit me next? Like, what a thing to say. And that was Terry's reaction. He's like, dear God, why would I do that? Well, come to find out, because that's what Al did. This is, for me, you know, the most emotional part of the story, because it's very real. You know, you've got crazy children that are actually the spirits of God, the devil. This hits a little, it's a real thing that really does happen. So she starts confessing to Terry that Al was abusive. And, you know, Al is there the whole time hearing what she's telling him. And he's struggling to believe it. He's like, no, this can't be true. This can't be true. Well, she tells him that, you know, he started beating her when she made some joke. Like, again, she wanted to touch butts. And Al was so preoccupied with work, and, you know, he really looked up to Jason Wynn, his boss, when he was alive. And so she made this off-color joke. Well, maybe I'll bring Jason in here, and maybe then you'll want to do me. And he gets so mad, he hits her. Later, you know, anytime he gets mad or aggravated with her or whatnot, can't control himself, his reaction is to hit her, choke her, and get very, very violent and physical with her. At one point, she stopped taking her birth control, which Al was unaware of, and she becomes pregnant. Well, this infuriates Al, because his job is the dirty underbelly of the world, the darkness of the world. That's his job. He's an assassin. He knows what's out there. And to him, what a world to have children in. He didn't want to bring a child in this world, and they have a very, very vicious fight over it. And she tells him that he loves killing. He he loves being this assassin. He loves the death and destruction and mayhem. And he blows up, and his reaction is to punch her very forcefully in the gut and cause her to miscarry. So the worst thing that Al Simmons ever did was he killed his own child. And so we, as an audience, discover that, yeah, he went to hell because we thought he knowingly killed innocent people as a CIA operative and, you know, with Jason Wynn. But the thing that made him so terrible was that he abused his wife and killed his unborn child. This is horrible, absolutely horrible. And he starts breaking down, and the mother of creation says, this is true. I didn't alter anything. I didn't warp reality. These are things that you chose not to remember. You buried them in your subconscious, and when you returned to Earth, you never regained them because you didn't want to remember. He listens to Wanda say how she never understood why women stayed with abusive men, that, oh, any man hit me, that's it, I'm out. And I've heard that many times myself too. And it's super easy to judge when you're not in that situation. You really don't know what you would do until you're experiencing it for yourself. And that's what happened to Wanda. She truly did. She was in love with Al. And she felt like, well, if I leave him, if I don't give him a chance, if I'm not understanding, you know, it's his job, then I don't really love him. And she had planned on leaving him when he got back from his last mission, which he actually died on. So problem was solved for her. And as Al, spirit spawn Al, is breaking down and realizing all of this, he recognizes that Terry is what she needed. Terry's what she deserved. And what kind of person would he be that not only was he the one who did all of this to her, but what kind of person would he be to take all the good away from her? Like, after all these years that she suffered, she has a good man that loves her and respects her and treats her like she's precious. And Al makes the decision that, you're right, I don't deserve, you know, not only do I not deserve to be back with her, but that would be more punishment. You know, she's got her reward. Terry is her reward. A lot of women, I've heard it myself, say, you know, if any man hits me, he only do it once. I won't put up with that. Let me tell you something. Abuse, it's not just a black eye. Abuse doesn't start with physical abuse. It is psychological first and foremost. It has started way before they put their hands on you. And the same was true for Wanda. So Al realizes just what a terrible, horrible human being he really was. And he leaves the home and goes back to the mother of creation. And after she explains that, yes, it was all true, you suppressed all of this, he asks her to kill him. End it. Be done with me. And she says, no, this is your punishment. And she makes him a spawn again. She says, now you have a chance to redeem yourself. And he says, where do I go? And she says, home. And deposits him back in Rat City, in the alley in New York. So you could see that is a very complex, complicated, dark, emotional, and deep story. There's so much to it. There's so much underpinning that evil being, you know, no one can make you evil. Evil is a choice. The human being's ability to suppress things that we've done. I mean, maybe it's a way of dealing with it, but it is something that does happen. You know the truth about domestic violence? You know, it takes a woman on average 7 times to leave an abuser. 7 times. It's a hard thing to do. The story really demonstrates how complex we are as people, and that there's always a chance to redeem yourself, but it has to be an active choice. And you have to do that daily. You have to make this active decision every day to be better than what you were the day before. And I respect that. I really like the story now. It's very deep, dark, and it pulled a lot of emotions out of me. So on that note, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again today and listen to me go on about one of the craziest stories in comic history. If you like what you see, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell so you get notifications when I upload these little things. I'll be back next week with another tale of super nerdiness and some more makeup, because that's what we do here. Until then, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.